Denver is not simply adding a few apartment buildings or replacing an old parking lot. The actual map of the city is beginning to change. Areas that have been cut off by highways, rail yards, surface parking, and industrial land are being planned as entirely new neighborhoods and communities. Stadiums are becoming year round districts. Major streets are being redesigned around transit. And some of Denver's most important public spaces are being rebuilt for the next generation. Today, I'm going to walk you through 10 projects that could completely change what Denver looks like, how it's functional, where people want to live over the next 5 years, maybe 10, maybe 25. Some are already under construction, some are approved, and a few are still ambitious visions that may take decades to become reality. I'm going to separate those categories because a beautiful rendering is not the same thing as a bulldozer, and neither one guarantees an opening date. So, if you like what you hear today, please go check out my new YouTube channel, What's Happening in Denver, because I'm going to dive deep into these. There will be updates constantly on this and so on. Today, this is a live aerial view. I'm going to give you a full map and showing you how these projects connect. Over on my What's Happening in Denver channel, I'm building individual deep dives into these developments, the plans, the neighborhoods, the construction, the progress, and what is actually happening on the ground. This channel is linked in the pinned comments. As we work through these 10, comment with the project you want me to cover first. It's already up and running, so check it out. Please head over there, What's Happening in Denver, over on YouTube. It's really dialed into homeowners and people that actually live in the area. We're going to talk about how, the construction will affect you, how the final project will look, and what strategies you should be using as a homeowner or a resident that could have major effects. Every project that we talk about will be evaluated on three questions. What is the current status? What is the finished vision? And how could it change the way people experience our city? Denver is creating a new riverfront downtown, so we're going to talk about those two first. The Ball Arena District. Status, its infrastructure and planning. The master plan covers approximately 55 acres surrounding Ball Arena, also known as the parking lot for the Nuggets and Avalanche games and concerts. It proposes between 10 million and 12 million square feet of residential, office, retail, and mixed-use development. More than 20% of the property is planned as parks and open space. Plans include a 3-acre signature park and 6 proposed pedestrian and bicycle bridges. The project has completed Denver's major development review framework and is currently in infrastructure master planning. So today, Ball Arena largely operates as an event destination surrounded by surface parking. The future vision is a functioning neighborhood active before, during, and after games. The Wine Coop Street would become an active commercial corridor with restaurants, retail, public spaces, and protected bicycle access. Pedestrian crossings are meant to connect the area with Lodo, Auraria Campus, Cherry Creek, and neighboring future developments. This is why the second downtown terminology is what is not completely hyperbolic. The intent is to build an urban district, not merely beautify an arena parking lot. The arena is already there. The transformation is everything that could eventually surround it. So my question is for you. Would you spend more time around Ball Arena if it felt like an actual neighborhood instead of a place you enter for a game and immediately leave afterwards? More walkability, more access to, bars, restaurants, open space, and parks afterwards. The River Mile, the long-range vision. This is a long-range vision undergoing an update. That's the status. Current facts here. The original River Mile concept envisioned a roughly 62-acre mixed-use district along approximately 1 mile of the South Platte River with housing, offices, public space, and streets designed around walking, bicycling, and transit. Kroenke Sports Entertainment acquired control of the project, and the official River Mile website now says it is being updated and will be relaunched. The former Headwater completion project should therefore not be presented as a current commitment. And if you guys know the area, the Ball Arena project sits right next to where Elitch's currently is. And those are the two projects we're talking about. So the big idea is Denver's reconnecting with the South Platte River. Instead of treating the river as a boundary behind industrial land and highways, the plan treats it as a centerpiece. This could eventually connect Ball Arena, Elitch Gardens, Meow Wolf, trails, parks, residences, and downtown. It remains strategically significant because Kroenke Sports and Entertainment controls the adjacent Ball Arena and River-Mile land. But this is the least dependable timeline in the group. Watch the River-Mile as a generational land story, not as a neighborhood that is about to open next summer. Ball Arena is actively advancing through infrastructure planning. River-Mile is still a major vision, but revised phasing and delivery dates have not been publicly established. Those two developments could pull downtown toward the river, but farther south. Denver is exploring another strategy entirely, using professional sports to turn former industrial land into year-round neighborhoods. So let's go to the stadiums. Everybody's favorite, right? Go Broncos. Maybe a Super Bowl one day. Burnham Yards and the proposed Broncos district status currently is as preferred site and active planning. They are under contract to purchase the land with a proposed close date sometimes in the fall. But what's currently the facts? The Broncos identified the Burnham Yards as the preferred site for a privately funded retractable roof stadium anchoring a mixed-use community. The organization is targeting completion for 2031 NFL season, but explicitly acknowledges that the land agreements, feasibility work, community engagement, and other major decisions remain. Primarily, preliminary plans describe housing, business, entertainment, community space, and multi-model connections extending beyond just game days. The stadium itself dominates the headlines, but the district surrounding it may be the larger urban story. Burnham Yards occupies a major piece of former rail yard land between downtown and neighborhoods south of the city. A retractable roof could attract major events beyond the NFL season. The mixed-use vision could include housing, hospitality, restaurants, office, and public gathering. Historic structures and the rail yard identity could potentially be incorporated rather than erased. This is not final. Preferred site matters. The Burnham Yards is no longer a random stadium rumor, but it is also not a finished deal with shovels in the ground. You have places like, you have the 10th and Osage station that's kind of around that. You have the elevated 8th Avenue Viaduct. If you're looking, the elevated 6th Avenue Viaduct as you're heading west or east into the city. Those are all things that will obviously have a play in this. The biggest thing is also Denver Water. They're going to have to relocate an emergency center, and right now they're having trouble finding a place for that to go. So a lot of moving parts. But the meaningful question merely is, how close is the house to the stadium? It is whether the final transportation, public space, and commercial plan creates a district people use throughout the year. We all know the Broncos are very near and dear to our hearts, but we have to justify a move of a not sold stadium within the last 20 to 30 years and what it could mean for the future. Lots of stuff going on here. I'm as excited as you are as a season ticket holder to have a little bit nicer weather after the AFC Championship thing. But the Denver Broncos stadium is one piece and privately funded. Now, what's the infrastructure look like? What's the environmental concerns with an abandoned rail yard? Where does Denver Water go? What's going to happen to the Buckthorn Exchange, right? Shout out to those owners as I went to college with their daughter, right? So there's a lot of different things that go on, but that is the general vicinity, which could be majorly transformed. Think about this like Coors Field when it came on the scene in 1995 in an old warehouse district, vibrantly, kept the warehouse feel with updated infrastructure, more restaurants, more entertainment, and so on. So now let's move south to the Santa Fe Yards, and this is the home of the Denver Summit FC, that women's soccer thing you heard about that almost sold out Mile High in their inaugural game, and now are competing at Dick's Sporting Goods as they go, right? The status of this one, approved and advancing. Now we're moving. The planned 41-acre Santa Fe Yards district is anchored by a purpose-built Denver Summit FC stadium scheduled to open in the spring of 2028. The stadium is designed for 14,500 spectators and could eventually expand into 20,000. Plans emphasize proximity to light rail, pedestrian connections, green space, restaurants, shops, and potential housing. So let's talk about this one. This is the old Gates Rubber facility. They've got through all of that piece. Advanced and moving forward is awesome. If you drive down by there when you're getting on I-25 off of Santa Fe, you will see a pedestrian bridge that leads to nowhere. It looks really funny right now, but that's kind of the location we're looking at for those of you that are driving by and familiar with the area. This is one of the firmer projects of the group. It converts a former industrial site into a women's professional sports and entertainment district. The open end of the stadium is designed around views, downtown, Pikes Peak, and the Front Range. Of course, we got to capture those views, those mile-high sunsets. The surrounding public realm is intended to work on non-match days. This gives Denver two sports-led transformation stories along the same broad southern corridor. Summit FC at Santa Fe Yards, potential Broncos district at Burnham Yards, is going to pull the city center to the south in a good way. Santa Fe Yards could demonstrate that a stadium district does not need to be NFL sized to reshape an entire section of the city. Super excited for what is to come over there. That's been an abandoned, factory, huge piece of property since forever when I can remember. And hopefully they work that Lego sculpture, that yellow design art sculpture in there too, as something that I remember from my childhood. This is exactly why launching the project by project cover on what's happening in Denver. We can only spend a few minutes on each development today. Over there, we can pull up full site plans, look at the surrounding neighborhoods, visit the properties, and track whether the actual construction matches the original premise, because as you know, things change. This channel is linked in the pinned comment. Tell me whether you want the first deep dive to be Burnham Yards, the Broncos Stadium, spoiler alert, it already is, or the Santa Fe Yards, Ball Arena, or something else on tonight's list. But we are planning on going deep into each and every single one of these projects and keeping the homeowner up to date on what's going on, the changes, because right now we see flashy headline and then it goes away. Sports districts may create an entirely new destination. Cherry Creek is taking a different approach, making an already successful district denser, more walkable, and much more connected to its namesake waterway. So we're focused here on building more complete neighborhoods. Cherry Creek West is project number 5. Status, they're already knocking over the parts of the old Cherry Creek Mall. We are in demolition and utility work in 2026 as we record this video. Cherry Creek West covers approximately 13 acres, plans 7 new buildings, about 840 residences, roughly 600,000 square feet of office space, 100,000 square feet of retail, and approximately 2,000 underground parking spaces. If you've parked in Cherry Creek lately, 2,000 additional parking spots that aren't gated, part of the mall, will be a welcome sight. The official schedule calls for demolition in spring of 2026. Already happened. Utility work during the summer, probably happening, and groundbreaking in December. Initial residential and commercial openings in late 2029, and phase 2 completion in 2033. We'll see what happens first, the Broncos Stadium or the Cherry Creek project. Cherry Creek is already one of the strongest residential retail and employment districts in the city. This is not an attempt to invent demand where none exists. It's an attempt to replace surface parking and aging commercial properties with a walkable extension of an established district. Underground parking removes much of the vehicle storage from the visible public realm. Planned uses include residences, offices, restaurants, and service, farmers markets, movies on the lawn, seasonal ice skating, public green space, improved creek and trail connections. This may be the closest example of what developers mean when they use the phrase 15-minute neighborhood. I saw the news today. Let's see what this one says. I saw the news today that plans advance for pedestrian bridge by Ball Arena. What does this mean for the timeline? That's all part of the timeline. Thanks for the comment. Rascal doesn't dream 127. That's what we do here. But yeah, so all of those things obviously are part of the full project. And if we're over there on Ball Arena, like we said, there's a lot of different things, a lot of people that have to move. So that is latest and greatest update from one of our viewers. So that's awesome. So here's the deal. I usually roll my eyes a little bit when planners give a concept a fancy name because apparently convenient neighborhood was not sophisticated enough. But the practical idea is solid. Daily life should not require a 45-minute expedition every time you need a coffee, dinner, or place to walk. This is the number one thing I hear when people move from denser areas to the East Coast is that it took them 45 minutes to an hour just to get to the, movie theater that's technically in their neighborhood. So Cherry Creek West is not creating a new destination from scratch. It is completing an already powerful one. So to you guys, the audience, would you trade a larger suburban lot for the ability to walk to restaurants, trails, work, and daily errands? Or are you just happy that there's going to be better parking in Cherry Creek? Definitely comment below, ask your questions, and tell me what you think. Buildings get most of the attention here, but the streets connecting these districts may ultimately change more people's daily lives than any single tower, and especially those of you who are making commutes along these lines. So let's talk about these major corridors. Project 6 is going to be the East Colfax Bus Rapid Transit status. This is under construction, as many of you have probably traveled out towards the medical campuses or into downtown on Colfax. It's kind of a mess. Construction on approximately $280 million East Colfax Bus Rapid Transit project begin in 2024. The 5-mile Denver portion extends from the central city to Yosemite Street and is targeted for completion in 2027. It includes dedicated center running transit lanes and redesigned stations along one of Denver's busiest corridors. Think of the light rail on wheels, right? No stoplights for the most part, and getting you from one destination to the other. The immediate experience is construction and disruption. Absolutely, we're feeling that on the streets. The finished vision is faster, more reliable transit and redesigned pedestrian connections. The larger development in question is what happens to properties and commercial nodes around the stations. Transit investment often influences where future housing, retail, and infill development concentrate. Colfax would gradually become less of a roadway people tolerate and more of a corridor connecting distinct neighborhoods. A dedicated transit lane does not magically fix every problem on Colfax. The real test will be whether the final system is reliable enough that residents can choose to use it, and whether local businesses survive the construction period to benefit from the finished project. And that's really what we like to talk about over there, is like, what's this going to mean in the meantime while I'm living my life, these 5 years, these 10 years of my life? What is living in this construction going to be? Is it worth it? The bus is a visible project. The potential redevelopment around the stations is the longer story, and one we need to focus on. Project 7 is the Colorado Boulevard BRT. Same concept. This one's planning and alternatives evaluation. CDOT is evaluating 3 primary alternatives for roughly a 7-mile corridor along Colorado Boulevard, extending from 40th to Hamden. 2 alternatives include dedicated transit lanes, and a preferred configuration was expected to be selected during summer of 2026. A dependable construction completion date has not yet been established. Colorado Boulevard connects hospitals, employment centers, retail districts, schools, residential neighborhoods, brushes by that Cherry Creek neighborhood, but on the east side, and residential neighborhoods. Unlike Colfax, the final physical design has not yet been selected. This is therefore a decision stage story rather than a construction update story. The future configuration could influence travel reliability, intersection design, pedestrian safety, and future development around stops. How much roadway remains dedicated to private vehicles is also something to consider. So Colfax shows us what Denver has committed to building. Colorado Boulevard shows us the argument Denver is still having. So for you guys, who's out there, would you support a dedicated transit lane on Colorado Boulevard if the system were demonstrably faster and more reliable, or is protecting the current vehicle capacity more important? That's a big one, right? Because we're taking public transit and some of this rail line idea through a BRT into a much more, so to speak, suburban area. It's not in the major city center, but is in one of the major city, developments that we experience today. The final 3 projects are different. They're not simply about housing or transportation. They're about Denver deciding what kind of public identity it wants to carry forward. Denver is reinvesting in its own public identity. So let's talk first about the National Western Center, something that typically we have the Coliseum that does random events, state championships for high school, those kind of things down there, and a huge convention center that's used a few times a year, but used pretty dramatically in January at the stock show. The status: major facilities have been delivered, broader campus still is in development. The National Western Center is being developed as a 250-acre year-round hub centered on agriculture, food innovation, Western heritage, and entertainment. The Legacy Building and CoBank Arena debuted for the 2026 National Western Stock Show, while construction and future campuses developments remain ongoing. For my parents out there, CSU Spur is one of the coolest places we take our kids. We homeschool them. So that's essentially their science class on a day-to-day, not every day, but really cool projects that go on there associated with the CSU vet operation. This project is not erasing Denver's Western history to make room for something trendier. It is attempting to modernize that history and make the campus useful throughout the year. The broader vision combines stock show facilities, agriculture and livestock, CSU Spur education, holler, food and water innovation, entertainment, public space, connection to surrounding neighborhoods, and the river. Unlike several projects in the episode, people can already see and use major completed pieces. The National Western Center is one of the strongest examples of Denver building its future around its history instead of pretending that history never existed. Remember when they called Denver a little cow town out west? Well, here we are. We still have the stock show complex, so that's awesome. Next, we'll go to Project 9, Civic Center Park. This is Phase 1 under construction. Phase 1 of Civic Center Park's transformation began in November of 2025 and is targeted for completion in 2027. The redesign of the Greek Theater is a central component with a larger goal of turning the park from a space people pass through into a more active downtown destination. Downtown revitalization cannot depend solely on office attendance returning to 2019 patterns. It needs public places that attract residents, visitors, and events and daily activities. Civic Center sits among the major cultural and government institutions. The finished product needs to feel safe, active, and useful when no formal events are taking place. Although I don't mind the celebrations when our professional teams win the championship ending in Civic Center Park, but those don't happen as often as any of us would like. This project complements private downtown developments by reinvesting in the public realm. A healthy downtown needs more than occupied buildings. It needs places where people voluntarily stay after they leave those buildings, but hopefully not sleep. Park Hill Park is the final project we're going to dive into. This is in the design phase. The former Park Hill Golf Course is being planned as a 155-acre public park. Denver collected nearly 6,000 public comments before presenting a final planning framework, and a city was preparing to procure a design firm in 2026. A large indoor field house supporting activities such as soccer and hockey has been discussed, but the final decision and design plus construction schedule remain unsettled. This is one of Denver's largest park projects in generations. It provides a counterpoint to the density conversation. Not every transformational property needs to become a high-rise development with restaurants and shopping and all the things. The vision may include trails, natural areas, athletic fields, recreation, gathering areas, indoor sports facilities. Because design is still advancing, individual amenities should not be described as guaranteed. So Park Hill is Denver deciding that one of its largest remaining urban properties should be measured in public access and recreation, not only in units and square footage. What this means for homeowners, buyers, and investors. Now let's connect this back to the real estate without doing the lazy thing and claiming that every house within 3 miles is automatically about to double in value. There's a lot that happens in these developmental stages. Follow completed infrastructure and not only announcements. Ask what has funded, ask what has been approved, ask what is physically underway, and ask which phase includes the amenity you actually care about. Do not pay today for a rendering scheduled 20 years from now. The long-term vision can be meaningful, but projected value and present-day livability are different conversations. The riverfront and Ball Arena should not be evaluated the same way as the Cherry Creek West or the Colfax BRT. Proximity and direct adjacency are not the same. Being near a walkable district can create convenience. Living immediately beside a stadium, construction zone, or a major transit project creates a different experience. Evaluate access, noise, traffic patterns, and physical barriers property by property. New centers of gravity can change buyer behavior. This is inference from the combined project plans as employment, recreation, dining, and public space becomes concentrated in new districts. Buyers may evaluate Denver less through the old downtown versus the suburbs framework and more through multiple connected lifestyle hubs. The correct question is personal. Does this project improve the life you actually intend to live, or does it simply make the neighborhood sound impressive in a listing description? If you own a home near one of these projects and want to understand how the changing area could fit into your long-term strategy, text me 303-543-1453, the word equity, and we'll put together a quick home evaluation and an asset review for you. And we can meet one-on-one to talk about how these projects will actually turn out in the future based on what your property looks like. And we can strategize on the best way to cash in on your home as an investment or sit on it and enjoy the Broncos game at the end of the decade. And before you make a move into or out of Denver or the northern Colorado area, call or text me. These developments may reshape part of the city, but the right move still comes down to your timeline, your finances, and the life you are trying to build. When you step back and you look at these projects together, the story is much bigger than 10 construction sites. Denver is attempting to create a new riverfront downtown around Ball Arena and the River-Mile. It is building sports districts at Burnham Yards and Santa Fe Yards that are intended to operate far beyond game days. It is creating denser, walkable neighborhoods like Cherry Creek West. It is redesigning major corridors such as Colfax and Colorado Boulevard. And it is investing in the public identity of the city through the National Western Stock Show, the Civic Center Park, and Park Hill Park. Not every timeline will hold. Not every rendering will become reality, exactly as it looks today. But collectively, these projects show us that the direction Denver is trying to move. Now, I want to hear from you. Which one of these developments should I cover first on what's happening in Denver, or more in-depthly? Head over to that channel. It's pinned in the comments. Subscribe and leave your vote. And reach out with any questions about Denver and the suburbs, or if you're exploring the ideas to move. Before you move into, out of, or around Denver or northern Colorado, let's build a plan first. I can't wait to have these conversations with you, and I will see you over on what's happening in Denver. If you stayed the whole time, thank you. But this is exactly what we dive into deep over on that YouTube channel, talking about how it's going to affect us, what it's going to look for, and other things that go along with that. So check that out on Instagram at JKCO Realtor _. You can always text me 303-543-1453. Until next time, next Why Invest Wednesday, we'll see you on the flip side. Have a good one.